Hi, everyone. I hope you're well. Welcome to this next episode of Learning Together. And in this session, we're going to take a look at Google Sites and how we can design and build in Google Sites just as we're thinking forward a little bit. My name is Nikki Woodford, and in our time together, I'm going to take you through a few things. We're going to figure out how we can create in Google Sites, do some designing in there, and then ultimately publish it, much like other website applications. But just a couple of things to know before we get going. One, that this particular session is more of a basic session. We are talking less pedagogy, and we're talking more just how do I do this? What are the steps I need to take? What's the information I need to know? And so, for that reason, this is more of a basic screencast. And the other thing is, I will add is that this screencast and this learning is for anybody. It doesn't matter whether you are a teacher of primary age kiddos or of secondary age kiddos. It doesn't matter what your content area is, because really, when we are designing a site, it's just a way to communicate. It's just how we communicate effectively. And so, any teacher can build and design a site as a way to facilitate communication with students, with families, with parents, and so on. So, really, the skills that I'm going to share with you and the things that I'll share with you in this session, anybody can utilize. Okay. All right. Now, before we get too far along, I'm just going to break our conversation down into a few things. One, what is a Google site? And then why? Why would we make a Google site? What are what's the purpose? And then we'll spend most of our time in the how. So actually creating one, looking at the design features in a Google site, and then publishing. So let me ask the what question. What is a Google site? And so Google Sites is a G Suite application, much like Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets. Okay? It is a G Suite application. This G Suite application helps you build a website. Okay? Just like you could use, I have known colleagues that have used Blogger in the past, WordPress, Weebly, Wix, all of these are website applications, and Google Sites is Google's version of designing and creating and publishing a website. So that's what it is. Now, why? Why would we consider using Google Sites? And I'm going to suggest two reasons. The first is that in this particular season, we are relying very heavily on Google Classroom. And while great, um, there are great features in Google Classroom, particularly as we are exchanging things back and forth. Right, we are digitally handing things out to our kiddos and then digitally receiving things back, and it is in an organized way. There are some features in Google Classroom that are trickier to navigate. And so when I say that, I mean that one of the things is that the organization is particularly tricky. And so let me just actually pop into a Google Classroom so you can see what I'm talking about. So when I'm in my Google Classroom, as it takes a moment to open, when I'm in my Google Classroom, you'll see that, I mean, up until even only a year, maybe a year and a half ago, that really the way to organize things that you exchange with your students was through Stream. And it was actually good for social media, but trickier for classwork. And so while I'm thankful for this classwork section, it's linear, which is good, but also very heavy on text. And so it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility in how to organize it. You can use headings or topics, and then you can kind of organize it that way. But if you're looking for larger scope to organize everything, I would say this is quite limiting. The other thing that I find in Google Classroom that's also a little bit limiting is just that there is again such a heavy reliance on text And so in other words, it's not really conducive to students from a universal design for learning perspective. And so it's hard to incorporate video tutorials or instruction. You have to dig to find them. It is heavy on text. And so for those kids where organization is kind of a natural gift of theirs or a natural talent or a skill, and where that literacy and text, again, they are quite strong with that, then this organization and this structure is fine. However, it is more difficult for those kids that rely on images, where they really need things pointed out a little bit more clearly, where they might rely on audio, where organization is maybe not their strong suit. So I just want to suggest that while it's good, maybe not great. And so one of the reasons that I really like Google Sites is that it can complement Google Classroom really well. So you could create a Google site to feature the bulk of your curricular content on the site, but then use Classroom as the exchange application to facilitate the back and forth between students. Now, the other reason I really like Google Sites is that because it's part of the G Suite applications, that also means that our kiddos have access to sites as well. And so that there's the possibility for them to build and design and create with Google Sites um, that maybe would have been uh, less easy to do in the past. And so, for example, when we think of things like research projects, or we think of digital portfolios, or we think of presentations, instead of perhaps relying on some more traditional methods like posters, formal presentations, what if students were to use a Google site instead? And so if you are modeling that to them, then they can also create using that application as well. And it's just a great learning opportunity for them. So those are some suggestions as to why we might consider Google Sites as an application to use and design and build with. Okay, but now let's move on. We're going to move on to the how. So very quickly, we've sped through the what and the why, and now I'm going to actually take you through, okay, so now how do I build and design a Google site? I'm going to move this out of the way over here. Now, first things first, there are two ways to open up a brand new Google site. The first is through Google Drive. And so when you open, oh, clearly that's in the way. So when you open Google Drive, you're going to click on New. And then just like you would do with Docs and Sheets and Slides, you're also going to do it, you can do it as well with Sites. So it's right there. So I can either click there, or my other top tip that I have certainly shared in the past is simply typing in sites.google.com/create, and this will create you a brand new one, and it will store it and save it right inside your Google Drive. Okay. Now I have one already opened, and so I'm just going to take you through here. Now I'm going to, just in terms of navigation and lay of the land, I'm going to take you through these top parts first, and then we'll get into this side menu bar, and then we'll get into the body of the site again. Okay, so the first things first. Along the top, I'm always going to want to title my site, and this is so I can find it easily in my Google Drive. So I might say that this is the course website for EL9. And I can also put that title here as well. So maybe this is for ELA. Okay. Now you'll notice when I'm hovering in the header here, I can add a logo if I choose. And that could be a school logo, that could be your own Bitmoji logo, it doesn't matter. And you will also notice that I can change the header as well. So I can make it a full cover, a large banner, or a title. Right now it's just as a banner. Just when we think of site design, then some thoughts that you might want to consider is that, and again, I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a website designer, but just some things to consider is that the more real estate we give to something, the more prominence we're giving to it. So I would hesitate to use the cover and the large banner simply because, again, I'm just giving a lot of real estate to something where I don't need the kids to pay attention to. Okay. So here I might go ahead and change the title. And so this is English Language Art Design. And I got a little bit of flexibility in Google Sites, not tons, but a little bit. And so I can kind of move this out a little bit. And I can play with this a bit. Not lots. And if I move this out of the way, my goodness, is in the way today. And I can play with kind of my font and my formatting. So I can do a few things here. The other thing is that you can change the image. And so if I want to select a different image, so first I can go into the gallery, and there are a number of gallery images that you can choose here. The alternative is that you can search for something. If you do a Google search, I might look for something like waterfalls, then type in the word banner so that you actually get a graphic that is more along the size that you would want for that top banner. So I might just pick one that, sure, this one looks decent. The alternative is that if you're familiar with Google Drawings, you could also design something in Google Drawings and then download it as a JPEG or a PNG and then upload it into this spot as well. So that would be another option. You can kind of create your own custom one. All right, so that is the banner and the title. And you'll notice that just like any other Google application, all the changes are saved in Drive, so you don't need to click. Now, as of right now, my site is not public. No one can see me, no one can see it except for me. It is private, and I'm really only in the design phase of it, so this is good. Now, if I wanted to add somebody into the site to collaborate on it with me, so not to see it from the view side, but really to collaborate in on it, then there's this icon here with, and I can click on it to share it with somebody else. And if I open that up, and I can identify who else might have edit access to this site so that they can contribute to it in the back end. Okay. Now, just as a note, this is an updated Google Sites application. If you are looking for special permissions that allows you to share only one page of the website with one specific person and then another page with another specific person, so in other words, those are page level permissions, those are not available in the new Google Sites. But if you're familiar with Google Sites, then it's available in classic sites. Okay, if you have more questions about that, you can always feel free to reach out. Okay, and so those are kind of those initial pieces to get started. The one thing I will add is that you'll see there's a settings cog here, and then there's also a settings cog that appears here. And so if you want to just adjust navigation even just the slightest bit, you can change that menu bar that you see here. You can have it appear across the side. From a published side, I don't have a bias one over the other, but I find from a design side that when you select the side, everything kind of disappears a little bit. And so just when you're navigating can be a little trickier. So I tend to lean towards top navigation. Certainly in the design stage, and I can always adjust afterwards if I want, but that's where it is. Okay. And then you can also change the color. So if I wanted to, I can have that little heading across the top. All right. The rest of the features in the settings, I largely don't play with. They're more having to do with analytics and access to the site. That might be a topic for more advanced screencast on sites, but for now, just in this basic one, we'll leave it alone. All right. So now that we've talked about the banner, the title, just sharing and inviting people in to design with you, let's start getting into the designing of the site. So the first place I'm going to go is themes. And you can, Google Sites, the application, makes it very difficult to create an ugly website. And so you'll notice that your options to design are more limited. Okay? You can't do in-depth design and tons of customization. It's pretty simple. And again, for the purpose that we want to produce appealing looking sites. And so, like I said, you don't have lots of options because it's hard to make it ugly if you don't have lots of options. And so you can change the theme a little bit. So I might adjust it to that. And then you'll also notice I can change the font style. And I can play around with this a little bit, and I can even change the color. So I might go to that blue. And if there's a particular color that you want to use, you'll notice that there is that color code that you can put it in right there. All right. Okay. So I've adjusted my theme, and you will notice that the theme will carry to all the subsequent pages that you might add to this site. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some pages. You'll notice that I've got one, or a couple actually. When you create a brand new site, you will start with one home page, and anything else you just have to add. And so I go into pages, and I have added two pages, a unit 1 and a unit 2. And so to add another one, I would go new page, and this might be my unit 3. And so it'll appear there. Now, I might also want to add a resources page. All right. Now, and then I might want to add, for example, year-end preparation. But if we're just at the beginning of the year, I actually don't want the kids to see this yet. So I'm going to click done because I'm going to have use it as a placeholder. I'm going to slide it down so it's at the end, and slide this up. So you'll notice the drag and drop. And then I'm also just going to click on that triple dot settings, and I'm going to say hide from navigation. So when it's published, nobody sees it. I know it's there, and I can always make it public. I can add it, but no one will see it, and so therefore they can't navigate to it. Okay. Now the other thing I might want to add is if, for example, I've got different themes in unit 1, I could go ahead and add a subpage. So again, I'm going to click on that triple dot menu. I'm going to add a subpage, and I'm going to say that this is theme A. I'm going to add another one, theme B, and I'm going to add one more, and assessment. And again, this one I don't want my audience to see, so I'm also going to hide this one from navigation. Okay, so you'll see you can kind of create the flow as you like, and you can also move things around as you like. Now, if you need to delete a page that you've already created, again, just click on that triple dot and you can click. All right. So, and then to navigate to these different spots, if the page is appearing, if it is not hidden from navigation, you can either navigate to those different pages through the menu on here, or you can navigate across the top here. It doesn't matter. I can go to the unit 3 page directly from the top. Now, if the page is hidden from navigation, you'll need to use this menu on the side. All right. Now, once we've got our pages all set, then we can start inserting content into the pages. Okay? Now, I'm going to go back home because I've started to add a few things here already. And you'll notice that on the menu to add content, it's kind of broken into 3 different sections. The top sections is if you really want to kind of customize it as you see fit. Right? So you customize the template, you customize like everything you can customize. And that's what I've done here. To add this text box, I just click on the text box button. Again, this is another text box. I've just added that. So I'll show you some of these features in a moment. The other option is that you can use like a templated layout. And so if I wanted to, I could do that. So maybe, for example, I might go to the resources page and I would like to use a template. And the template I'm going to use is this one here. And so it just gives me the template, and if I click on the plus button, I can add really anything I need, whether it's a series of a YouTube playlist or a YouTube video. It could be a document from Drive or a file from Drive. It can be something you need to upload or even an image. So really anything that you want to embed in there, you can add. And then of course there's just some text boxes below. So this template just saves you the time from customizing it. I'm going to go back home for now. And then on the bottom, there are some additional pieces that you can pull in. Okay. Now, if I go into the text box here, you'll notice that when I click on it, I got some options. And so I've added a heading at the top, and then I've got some normal text underneath. You'll notice you cannot change the font. Again, Google's just making it simple for you to design a aesthetically pleasing site. And so certainly you can use bold text, italicized text, but you can't change the font and you can't change the size unless you play with this here. Okay, but certainly alignment. So I might change the alignment of my heading and put it in the middle. And then I can add hyperlinks, clear formatting, delete it. And then there's a few other ones if I want to. Okay. Now, again, if I need to customize this because I want to add something on the side, you'll notice I can resize this text box. It's how much you can format it. Again, if you're looking for full options and full features, you will notice that you can only do so much, and that's okay. Okay, so I can resize that, and then if I wanted to, I could add just an image here as well. So I might go and click select image, and I might go grab one from somewhere. I'll do a quick Google search. Maybe I'm looking for a novel, a picture of a, yeah, sure. Perfect. And again, just to make it aesthetically pleasing, I'm putting in some graphics. But certainly you can add what you want. And where did, oh, it went up there. That's not where I wanted it. And you'll notice that I'm just going to move it down. Now this, it has like it's kind of grouped them together. So I'm just going to grab this one and move it back up there. Perfect. And then resize as I need. Alrighty. Now, so text box, those are images. Again, I can pull anything in from Google Drive. It can be a form, it can be a doc, like anything that is sitting in your Google Drive, you can pull it straight in if you like. Okay, and that navigation will appear on the sidebar, even a folder. Embed, this is if you want to include, like if you are using HTML code, that again, that might be a topic for more advanced conversation, but if you are using HTML code, then this is where you, if you click embed, then you would enter your HTML code in the box that appears. And so I've used that a few times, but again, I don't use it often. All right, so you'll notice some text boxes, and then at the very bottom, you'll notice some additional features. Now, before I get into the bottom too quickly, I want to show you. So for example, I might want the kids to have navigation to some quick links. And so to do that, I just pulled in a graphic of these two applications. And I'm just going to click on the insert link and put in the website. And so instead of seeing the text of the website, I could do this. Okay. And so anytime they click on that, they would access PowerSchool, and I could do the same for our Google Classroom. And I would just insert the link. Now, don't worry about making this too complicated. I would just keep it simple. If you're adding Google Classroom link, and it will just be classroom.google.com. All right. Now, the alternative to adding an image and hyperlinking an image, certainly you can hyperlink text if you want as well. But the other option is you can add a button. And so a button really is just a quick button. So for example, I might want them to, maybe they might need to go to the curriculum, like the program of studies. And so you could add a program of studies button, and here's Okay. And then I can stretch that and make it a little bit bigger so we can see the full text. All right. So a number of options on how to encourage your stakeholders and your students to navigate to different things. Now, I'm just going to show you a few other things. So collapse, if I wanted to include a collapsible text, so I'm going to go to the resources page actually. Collapsible text is if you ever have text and you can potentially see that there might be a lot of text on the page, but they don't need to always see all of it. So it's kind of like you might have a heading and then text that gets hidden in behind it. So this could be good for glossary terms. This could be good for learner outcomes if you were going to put that on your website. So this could be a vocabulary term, and then you might put the definition here. And so when the kids look at it, then it just pops down. Okay. Now a table of contents is not a foreign concept, but make sure that when you use a table of contents that you put all your headings in first and then you insert your table of contents at the end because it is based on headings and the use of headings. But it really just helps with navigation. So you could put that on your homepage if you need to, and particularly if there's going to be a lot of scrolling on your site. Okay, an image carousel, this might be very interesting, particularly for if students were going to create or if there are courses that have maybe lots of images. And so you could create a carousel of images. So it could be art, it could be a CTS course where kids are taking pictures of things or you are taking pictures. It could be science. If you're taking pictures of an experiment and you just want to have the time lapse. And so to insert an image carousel, you just add the images that you have and then they will cycle through on their own. Now, just to note, this image carousel is only for images. It's not for YouTube videos. It's not for Google Slides or files. It is only for images. And so just note that. And there's some settings there that you can access as well. So the button we've talked about, the divider, I'm going to go back to my home page. A divider is simply for aesthetics and separating sections on your page. So you can add a divider. I might say I want a divider between my important link and maybe some content that I have for the kids to read through, maybe about the course. And so I'm just going to move it. Come on, there we go. And we'll move it one more time. There we go. Okay. Anyway, I can do some more playing with that. There it is. Okay. And then, I forgot to mention that you'll notice anytime that there's a section in the website you're looking at, there are some additional options on the side. So I can either delete it, I can copy it just for formatting sake, or I can do a little bit of playing here. So I can upload an image for this section, or I can even just change the emphasis. Just again, to visually break up sections and create navigation. Now, a few other things. Now, these options at the bottom, YouTube, calendar, these are if you want to embed those specific applications directly in. So you might have a map, you might have maybe your Google Classroom calendar, you could embed that directly on your website. And if I were to do that, you'll notice it pulls up all my calendars. And so here is the one for my class, and I can embed that right in. And then you don't need to, as soon as you make changes through Google Classroom or add events or assignments or due dates or things in it, it'll automatically go directly on the site. You could also add, again, docs, slides, sheets, forms, charts. But the other one thing I do want to note is that a placeholder. So for example, if you're going to create a template of a website and you might have somebody else come in and fill it in, so you could potentially create a template for your students and then give them, like create a copy and make it for them. Then you're just kind of using a placeholder. So as I use the placeholder, then the kids would know that I need to put something in here, but I need to do that myself. And so it's just essentially creating a template for them to work within. So those are all the features on the things that you can add and embed and use to design a Google site. Um, but just a few things to keep in mind. So just make sure that you are remembering your audience. You want to find a balance between cramming your website full of text, but also leaving too much white space where there's nothing there at all. And so there is a little bit of a happy medium. But the biggest thing for sure is err on the side of um, kind of finding a balance between text and non-text. So whether that's images or graphics or videos or other embedded objects, because just if there's too much text, the kids just won't pay attention. And so really you do want to find that balance. And you also want to make sure that you're not scrolling for too long. Now that seems to be a feature in sites these days, in website design. I just am not convinced that our kiddos are actually scrolling to the end of something. And so we just want to be cautious of how much we're putting on a page and we're making them scroll. Okay. So that is really a shortened version of how to create and design a Google site. And now I'm just going to really briefly walk you through how to publish it when you're done. So the first thing that you always want to do is you want to preview it. Before you publish, always take a look at it and just make sure it is looking visually the way that you want it to. And so to do that, there is a preview icon at the top here. So we just click on preview and it's going to give us the kind of the published side of what that might look like. And you'll notice this on the bottom just gives you a different device, the view in different devices. So here's a tablet view, what it would look like, and then the phone view, mobile view, and so you can kind of take a peek and then make any adjustments that you might want to. Now, just to note, if it's a classroom website, I typically am not designed for a mobile view. I typically design for a computer view, but it is entirely up to you how you do that. Now, once you are satisfied that everything is looking the way that you want it, then it is time to publish. So you'll notice the blue publish button in the top right corner. And you can then kind of customize your website address. And so this could be for meet. And then I can who sees my site. Now you can make it local to inside our edu domain, but to be honest, I would just make it public because you're never quite sure. Are parents going to want to navigate this? In which case, they won't be able to see it if it's only inside your edu domain. Okay. So that is that. You'll notice the checkmark tells you that this website address is available, and then this then would be the address. Okay, so if I want, I can copy that and save that for later. And now I would go ahead and click publish. Now, after it is published, you'll notice that there's a little down arrow and there's some additional options that I can look at here. I can view the published site. I can unpublish it at any time, doesn't matter. And certainly if you ever make changes to the website, additions, adjustments, you'll just want to go through the motion of publishing again. And then once everything's published, the website is ready to go, it looks good, you've looked at it, you've viewed the published site, and you see that it's good, then all you're going to do is take this URL and you're going to share that. Okay, so I've already copied it, and I might go ahead and copy that into my Google Classroom, maybe under course resources. Here's the complement website that we are using. Okay. Now, as we scroll through here, the one thing you want to add is you will notice that this link here is still actually quite long. And so you could shorten it further by using Bitly. So Bitly is a web application. There's also an extension. So if I were to go ahead and click on this Bitly extension, I can shorten this to a much smaller, I could put it smaller URL. And so I could even go, and so this then is the link. Okay, I can click save, and so there it is. So instead of this one here, I now have this one. So I can click copy, and I can even post this one in my classroom, and I can even add that little short link back on my Google site. Okay. So in our time together, we've kind of talked about what is a Google site, why would we consider designing a Google site, and then how do we do it. As a reminder, this is just a really quick basic introduction to it. There are certainly some additional features. You'll notice I didn't touch on all of the buttons, all of the features in there, but this will get you started in Google Sites. And it is simple enough to design in that anyone can create a Google Site, student or teacher. Last but not least, before I sign off, I just want to point you in the direction of a couple of resources. So remember that all of our learning together screencasts are posted in the YouTube channel. And I also want to remind you of the colleagues that we have in the region that are also doing some really great work. So Blackgold has an engaging students website. This is built on a Google site. And they've got lots of really great templates and resources that you can access. And then our colleagues in Edmonton Catholic have also developed a number of resources you can use. So especially if they're Google templates, just open them up, file, make a copy, and then you have your own version. You can customize it and edit it, and then do what you want with your own students. So certainly, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, I hope you stay well and healthy. Thank you for all your good work. Thank you for continuing to learn together. It is just such a pleasure, and I hope you take care.